So in my previous video, you saw where we started the repair on the front bumper cover. We removed it from the car, we stripped it down, I did some plastic welding to those cracks, we reinforced the cracks on the back side, and you even got to see me play violin. Yes, that was actually me playing. It's a rare treat because most people don't even know that I can play the violin. So anyway, today we're going to continue working on this bumper cover and get the rest of the repair done so we can go ahead and get this thing painted. So now that we have all our reinforcement on the back side of the bumper, we're going to start working on some of the body work. And we're going to have to do a little bit of filler work in here where we added this patch and along these cracked areas. And we're also going to work down here on the bottom side of the bumper. And as you can see, it's got some bumps and scrapes from maybe hitting the little bumpers at the front of parking spots or maybe coming out of a low parking lot, hitting dips in the road. So here with these little scrapes, we're just probably going to sand this down with 180. Some of these areas right here might need a little bit of filler work, but mostly we're just going to sand this with 180, shoot some primer over it, sand it down, and all these scratches should come out. So we got everything sanded down, wiped down, nice and clean, and the next step is to put some filler on these spots. So here's the filler we'll be using. It's Dolphin glazing putty. This stuff sands really easy, goes on really good, really flexible, works great on these bumper covers. Now you don't need to use traditional Bondo. That's a little bit harder to sand. You don't really need it on this because you're not really going to build a whole lot of thickness up. So we're going to mix this up and we're going to get it on there. So now that we've got all the filler on there, we're going to let this thing dry for about 30 minutes. Then we're going to come back and sand it down. Now after we sand this first coat, we're probably going to have to come back and do a second coat in a few areas and touch it up. We didn't have to put a lot of filler in here. These are small scratches, and you know, the cracked areas, we kind of just sanded them down just a little bit, so they don't really need to, so to say, be built up. So not going to be really a big problem to sand all this stuff back down, touch it up, and get it right. So I like to cheat a little bit, and what I like to do is I like to put guide coat on top of this bodywork before I even start sanding it. And this is what I use right here, SEM guide coat. And what this does is it shows all your highs and your low spots. Normally you do this after you prime it, but I like to do it on the body filler. That way it kind of shows me where my lows are. Usually have a bunch of lows, and that way I can go ahead and fill those in. Kind of just a little cheater step there that I've figured out over the years, and it seems to work pretty good. So that's what I've done here. Now to sand this down, I'm going to do it by hand, and I'm going to be using these blocks. That's the easiest way. If you use a DA, you can dig into the paint. This way we'll know we'll have it pretty straight. So to start this off, I'm starting with 80 grit on a round sanding block. So we got all the filler sanded down nice and smooth, and the next step is to get this thing in primer. But before we do that, we're going to need to tape it up, because we're actually only going to prime this bottom piece and right up here where the license plate goes, where we did some work. So as you can see, we got the bumper all taped up, ready to go. The next step is to go ahead and mix up some primer. So here's the primer that we're going to be using. This is a 2K primer with a hardener. Automotive grade, same thing you'd find at a body shop. Of course, we do have some flex agent here. You want to put that in anything that you're spraying, like plastic, anything that's going to be flexible. You will make sure you want to put that in your primer. You want to put that in your clear coat. So the next step is to get this mixed up. This mix is 4-to-1, being 4 parts primer, 1 part hardener, 1 part reducer. And then we're going to put 10% of the flex agent in there. So now that we got this thing in primer, we can take a look at it and we can get our first glimpse of whether we did good body work or bad body work. And as you can see, it actually looks pretty decent there. And a lot of that is from using a block. If you try to hand sand some of this stuff just outright, it's hard to get them edges correct. But with a block, you can get them pretty close. And with this being white, it's not going to really show body work that well. You might be able to tell if I point it out, but most people are not going to be able to tell down here in the bottom. But as you can see, the bodywork actually looks pretty good all the way around here. And I'm pretty happy with it. So we're going to need to let this dry. And I would say I'm going to let this dry for about 12 hours. And then we'll come back tomorrow, we'll unmask this thing, and then we're going to start sanding on those areas that we primed. So here's some of the sanding we've gotten done so far. As you can see, looks pretty good. Body work looks pretty good. Kind of hard to tell on camera, but it's pretty straight. We do have some little low areas, you know, it's not really going to show up. Plus we got a little bit more sanding to do. As you can see, I've kind of made a pass over that. And you can see where the guide coat actually shows you all the highs and the lows actually in the primer. And this is the inconsistency out of the gun is what you see. And then you can see our sand scratches from where we hit it with the 80 grit. And it fills all that in, and that lets you know where all your scratches are. So when you get it down to where it's nice and gray like that, it's really smooth. I've sprayed water on here to check the body work out, and as you can tell, it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks way better than it did before. You know, right there where we had the hole and the cracks and everything. So I think this thing's going to turn out pretty good. And our area right here where the license plate goes, that's nice and smooth now. We had some divots here and here, I guess, where from the license plate was pushing down on it. We might have to go around the edges with a Scotch-Brite kind of roughen that up, and this thing's pretty much ready to spray. So this is the color of our base coat, and I did a spray out, and as you can see, it looks pretty close to the original paint. So in reality, these bumpers rarely match the rest of the car anyway, because they have a flex agent in the clear, and that usually darkens it up a little bit. So most cars from the factory usually don't even match. So I think this is going to turn out pretty good once we get it sprayed. I think it's going to look all right. So after all that hard work of sanding and prepping and painting this bumper, this is the final product. I'm really pleased with the way it's turned out. It looks really good. So we're going to need to let this paint cure about 24 hours, and then we can come out here and unmask it. So now that we've got this bumper cover painted, the next step is to go ahead and install it on the car, but I'm going to save that for the next video. I want to say thanks for watching, and if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll get the notifications. Check out my other projects, and if you're not following me, make sure you follow me on Facebook and Instagram.